progress.
Can you hear me?
I can.
Okay, great. Good afternoon. I don't know, can you see? Oh, I guess you can't see me. Let me put my cut. There we go.
There we go. I don't know how many we're going to get, but it's always about the same number. So we'll see.
Fine, it's fine.
I
Yeah,
was,
of course, it's being recorded, Allara, so, you know, members will have access to it even after today's. So appreciate you taking the time to share your story with us.
Yes, absolutely. No problem. My pleasure.
I downloaded your presentation from the Florida chapter conference with Kathy.
Well, I don't even know if I still have it. I have did not refer to it as I was preparing for today, but I had some computer storage issues, so I had to convert over, and unless it was in the cloud, which this wasn't, I don't know if I still have it.
It really plays into what we're trying to do in private practice, so
Sure.
I'm glad I have it. We may have you back for a presentation on that.
Sure. I might have to figure out how to get that presentation back.
Oh, I can send it to you.
Okay. Well, I hope everybody will let me see their smiling faces.
Yeah, well, yeah, that's part of the fun of it.
Yeah, I don't want to talk to a black screen. There we go.
There we go.
No promises on smiling, though.
That's all right.
So I'm not sure if either Robert or Ginger has been on one of these before.
I've been on a couple of them before.
Okay. When was the last one?
I think it was last month's.
Okay. Well, that's on me then.
I have watched recorded versions of this, but not live.
Okay.
Oh, yay, welcome.
And Mike and I go way back.
Well,
Apparently,
when we get ready to get started, I'd love to hear a little bit from everyone, just to kind of get a background of who you are, where you are, what size firm you work for, to get an idea.
yeah, we usually do that just to get everybody's name in front of everyone else. It's not just for the benefit of the speaker, but yeah, we can do that. We can start doing that now. It's 3 o'clock.
Okay.
So anyway, I'm the chair of the private practice division, Stephen Tocknell, and I'm working out of Jacksonville, Florida. And I still have, I'm almost retired. I'm definitely on the brink, I guess you could say. But in the meantime, I'm trying to help everybody avoid the mistakes that I made over 50 years. It wasn't all private practice though. So
Well,
Robert,
congratulations on being on the brink of retirement.
pardon? Oh yeah.
Congratulations on being at that stage.
Oh yeah. I'm just about to claim my trophy. I promise not to run for president.
So Robert, what about you?
Hi, yeah, Robert Mansfield from gloriously hot Madera, California.
Ooh.
Yeah, after a little over 17 years working for the County of Madera in their planning department, I have branched out to a sole proprietor land use consulting firm of my own, RFM Land Use Consulting, and I've been doing that for we're in what, June still? About 4 months now.
Oh, wow.
So working on that, enjoying it immensely, which is a good thing. And that in a nutshell is me.
Well, congratulations on stepping out on your own. That's a big step.
Thank you. Yeah, it was a big step and kind of a little nerve-wracking at first, but things are going smoothly, so that's always helpful.
Good, good.
Yeah.
And Doug Kelly, are you with us? Are you on? Are you able to join on video also?
Sure.
Awesome. While he's doing that, Ginger, tell us a little bit about yourself.
Sure. I'm Ginger Lowry. I'm the president-elect for Mississippi chapter. I was previously with the city of Hattiesburg for just over 9 years. And about a year and a half ago, left to start my own consulting. I wanted more flexibility. I wanted more opportunity for creativity in other parts of my life. And I have a young family that I wanted flexibility for as well. And it's gone surprisingly well. But I'm, forging new paths for myself every day. And so thankfully, I have a number of mentors that have been very kind to give me a helping hand up. So and give me tips and everything. And I've also used this division for a couple of things to help me figure out, like there was one of these was about insurance, and that was very helpful with a potential client of mine. So this was a very interesting session to have. So thank you.
And Hattiesburg is where Mississippi State is located?
No, University of Southern Mississippi.
Oh, that's Star. No, okay, yeah, I got them mixed up with Starkville. Yeah.
That's
Okay.
okay. Yeah, we're about an hour and a half north we're about an hour and a half from everything, from the coast, from New Orleans, from Jackson, from Meridian. So we're called the Hub City because we are kind of at the center and kind of isolated, and makes for a great culture in our town too.
Thank you so much for sharing. Mike, how about you?
Well, I'm Mike Anarchy. I'm from Baltimore, Maryland. I'm retired from Johns Hopkins University about 10 years ago, where I was the department chairman for the real estate program. But more importantly, I'm a longtime friend of Steve Tocknell. When I just started out in planning in Jacksonville, Florida, Steve was there at the same time. So I was originally trained as a regular planner at Ohio State, and then went down after graduation, met with Steve, and was in Florida for about 5 years, and then started in, had a question in my mind of what is it those bankers and those developers do in the process building cities. I knew that we had all the answers as planners and architects, but I went back and got an MBA, and then from there went to Urban Land Institute and started their programs and executive training, and then from there went to Johns Hopkins. Again, where I ran the real estate program. And now Steve and I are trying to figure out the appropriate compensation for planners in the private sector. And still struggling with that, but we're getting there.
Yeah.
We wish you much success.
Yeah, but my mantra at the conference was we need a less more oblige and less noblesse. I guess less noblesse and more oblige. So that's what we're working for.
All right, thank you. I'll go in order on my screen, and I know Doug Kelly. He's a great planner. He's here in Florida with me where I am. So Doug, can you say a little bit about yourself and the size firm that you work for?
Sure. I'm Doug Kelly in Orlando, Florida. Work for England, Timms and Millers, the planning manager, and am here in Florida. And I also volunteer for the University of Florida Advisory Council for their URP program. Working for a private consulting firm, we do a lot of expert witness testimony, and so that is interest I have if and when I actually transition to retirement someday. But I've always wanted to get more involved in the group here, and so recognize Allara's name and Stephen's name, and look forward to joining. I actually joined and look forward to participating.
Great, thank you. Janice? Oh, wait, one more thing. What is the size of your firm, Doug?
We're about 340 and in 4 offices, and getting ready to expand to Tampa, Florida here shortly.
Okay, and you're primarily Florida based?
Yeah, Florida and South Georgia.
Okay, all right, thank you. And then Janice.
Sure. Hello, everybody. I'm Janice Hill. I have my own practice, which is Acreage 43560. I primarily am a land use planner by background, but I work in farmland protection. And because of that specialty, I was able to create my own solo practice alongside my government work. I just retired this week. Wow. After 40 years in local government, and you know, I had that overlap for many years with clients, and then now I just opened a new banking account, business banking account. I had one, but I mean, it's a celebratory day today. Thank you, because I just opened that. And of course, I'm really looking forward to participating in this in particular, because the practice side, the private practice side, there's just so many things that we can share, I think, to advance everyone's work forward. I had some experiences in terms of negotiating my contract for this with my former employer, and now I'm a sub to someone else. So much to share on that experience. And then even banking, like the whole thing. There's so many different things I'm looking forward to talking about.
Awesome. Thank you.
Okay,
And did you say farmland protection?
Yes, farmland protection.
I need to bend your ear.
Sure.
Yeah, and I'll explain a little bit, but I would love to talk to you a little bit about that offline sometime. That's a big issue with a couple of the local governments I'm working with here in my neck of the woods that want to protect that, and the growth is just encroaching, and how to make sure that that doesn't convert. All right, so Alyssa.
Hi, everyone. Alyssa Barber Torres. I'm a project manager in Orange County's Transportation Planning Division in Orlando, Florida. And I'm also the Secretary Treasurer of APA's Private Practice Division. I connected with the team here by my work co-founding the APA Florida Equity, Diversity, and Inclusion Committee. And we started collaborating on the recently updated Private Practice Handbook that the division offers you as a member benefit, and was encouraged to run. And so I'm the stranger in a strange land. I'm still in the private sector, although like Janice, you never know. And again, happy to see so many folks on the conversation today. Looking forward to hearing from Allara.
Thank you, thank you. And Kim?
Hi, I'm Kim Selby. I'm a campus planner and urban designer with NBBJ. It's a large architecture design planning firm. I think we probably have 600 staff in multiple locations internationally, but there's about 20 of us who are a part of our urban environments practice. And I'm in the Seattle office, so I'm going to be off camera most of the time, so you don't watch me eat my lunch. Nice to meet you all.
Thank you. Thank you so much. Well, I guess I'll go ahead and introduce myself. I'm Allara Mills-Gutcher. I'm in Northwest Florida, so what some people refer to as the Panhandle. I have been in this neck of the woods for almost 30 years. I come from a military family background. My father was in the Air Force. My husband was in the Air Force since retired. And so as a child, I moved around a bunch, just all over the country. I lived in California, Canada, England, Wyoming, Ohio, Mississippi. I was born in Biloxi. So just been one of those rolling stones that had to learn how to adapt quickly, because we moved every 2 to 3 years and attended all different kinds of schools. But so I never knew that I wanted to be what I am today. Growing up, it was by accident that I actually got into the profession. We were living in Oklahoma City, my husband and I, and at the time that the bombing happened back in the 90s, the early 90s, and the Oklahoma City Federal Building was bombed by Timothy McVeigh, and I had a small child at the time, less than a year old, and that really, because there was a daycare in the facility, really impacted me very deeply. And I just felt like I needed to quit my job and do something different. And instead of just staying home, I decided to go back to school and went for my master's degree, and planning was a perfect fit for my condition of my life at the time. So I started planning school and just not really knowing a whole lot about it at the University of Oklahoma, and just fell in love and became very passionate about it, and did an internship with the city of Oklahoma City before we moved to Northwest Florida so many years ago. So when I first moved to Northwest Florida, there weren't a whole lot of planning jobs in this part of the state. It was, and it still to me is a little bit more on the rural side, at least small community. We don't have a lot of big cities in Northwest Florida. Pensacola would be one, Tallahassee would be another. And so everything in between is still rather small. And as you get off the coast, very, very rural. So I started by working for the Seaside Institute. And if anybody knows Seaside, Florida, That's where one of the first TNDs that Andres Dewani planned with the property owner, Robert Davis. So not really planning work, but it got me into that arena, that bubble for a short while. And I worked for them for about a year before I found a planning job in a very small community over here in the county that I currently live, and worked for them in the public sector. So for the first part of my career, I worked a lot in the public sector. I worked for a small city. Then I moved on to the county for a few years. And then I had a second child and decided I really didn't want to work full time, and asked my government employer if I could work part-time. And they were like, no, we don't do part-time work. And I'm like, oh man. So I was inclined just to quit, to be home with my daughter for a number of years before she started pre-K or kindergarten. And they said, well, we really don't want you to quit. Can you work through a temp agency and stay with us for a little longer? Which I did. And then I found a private company who was willing to let me work part-time. And that was my first private sector position. It just happened to work out. There's a company in Northwest Florida that owns a lot of land called the St. Joe Company. And they were at the time converting a lot of their silviculture, their tree farming activities into land development opportunities. So the private company that I went to work for did a lot of work for them. So I did a fair amount of work on some projects that I kind of had my fingers in prior, but that got me exposed to the private sector world. And knowing, just so you know, I always knew that one day I wanted to own my own business. Now, early on, I didn't know what that business was going to be, but I just knew that I wanted to be a business owner. So my opportunity to work for that private consultant, I knew was good. It was a good move for me, so that I could learn the ins and outs of how the private sector works. You know, how to write a proposal, how to build those relationships in order to, because I don't know in your neck of the wood, but my neck of the wood, having those relationships is very important to those that select those that submit for an RFQ or an RFP. So it's in fact, I just interviewed for a job a couple weeks ago in a county to the north of me, and they asked me how long I'd lived in Bay County. And I knew the reason why they asked me how long I lived in Bay County, because they liked that local option. So I worked for, it was PBS&J at the time, and has now been bought out or merged twice since then. And it's Atkins Realis, I think, if I'm pronouncing that correctly. So I worked for them for about 3 years while my daughter was really young, and learning how to operate a private business and how that kind of machine was oiled. And from there, and first of all, let me go back a little bit. The very first planning job I ever applied for was for a planning director in the small town that's here in Bay County, thinking, you know, it's small enough. It's all of about, 1,500, 2,000 people. I could do that job. And the university I went to at the University of Oklahoma always encouraged us to go big. You know, there's a lot of planners that came out of that school and went right into a planning director position for smaller communities like that. So I felt like I could do it. And if I didn't know how to do something, I'm pretty resourceful and I'll figure it out. I'll find out the way to make something happen. But they didn't hire me for that job. They hired someone from the Bay County organization to come over and be the planning director. But they created a job for me that didn't exist. And they only ever had a planning director or a planner in that position. And so they created a planner job, and I became the planner underneath the planning director. So I did that for some time before I went on to work for Bay County for a better opportunity. So after I worked for PBS&J, same kind of thing happened. There was a position open at the city of Panama City for planning manager. I hadn't had any experience like that in the management before, but I said, why not? I'll stick my name in the hat. All they can do is tell me no, right? So I did, and I know I heard afterward there was a lot of hemming and hawing about whether or not they should hire me. But they did, and I stayed there for about 5 years. before I had an opportunity to create my own business and start my own business. And it was really, it wasn't that hard for me to try and do that. I've been really rung through the ringer in the public sector work. A lot of politics that go on here. Most of the time, I was the only woman in the room, only woman at the table. It is a very Republican part of the state, so that made it a little more challenging in the planner world, because if you're familiar with Republican politics, it's very much about property rights, and I should be able to do what I want with my own property. Don't tell me what to do with my own property. So working in the planning realm, you got a lot of kickback and people getting upset about being told what they can and can't do with their property. So with the opportunity to work for the city of Panama City, I was able to take that management role and really work with the planners. I didn't have a very big staff. I had one assistant desk clerk and then 2 planners, but able to really make some change and be influential in a positive way to not only the community, but the planners that I worked with. And did that until, like I was about to say, the politics just got to be too much. I had a mayor that really supported me that left office, and I had a city council person that really supported me that left office. And I just felt the writing was on the wall, and it was time for me to also exit before my life got really difficult. So that's when I started out on my own. And at this time, it was probably it was 2011. So I'm thinking, I'll just start out on my own and it'll be great. Everything's going to happen. It's going to be perfect. I'm going to get all this work. And we were still in the downtime. I don't remember if you remember the late 2000s when things just weren't happening much. Well, it didn't happen much in the early 2010s either. So I tried to stick it out for a couple years. Didn't have a whole lot of money going in. I had a couple of larger projects, but it wasn't enough to put the bacon on the table, so to speak, even with my husband's income. So I went back to work for local government at a county level within the region for 3 years before my phone started. At the end of that, my phone was calling, can you do work on the side? Can you help us with this? Can you work over here in this county on the side? And so I asked my boss and he said I could. And then it got to a point where there was just enough for me to be able to leave that job. And then so in 2016, I came back into the private sector, and it's been a year after year, just really great. It's been a huge blessing. And my income has been such that I was able to hire an employee, which I did for about 2.5 years until she decided working from home wasn't from her, because that's what we do. I don't have an office space. I didn't think I needed that expense, and I really don't, because I don't meet clients often. And if I do, we can find a mutual place to meet. So she left me at the front of this year to go work for a local government so she could be in the office and have that social interaction, which she felt like she really needed. And we're still in touch. We still talk a lot. I really miss her a lot, but I have since hired another student intern, which is how I started with her. FSU is not that far from me in Tallahassee, so I'm able, and I have a relationship with a couple of the professors over there. So I usually ask them for some recommendations on a student intern. And if that student intern works out, then I move them into a full-time position, which is what I did with my previous employee. So I have a student intern right now. Again, he started in April, and he is about to enter into his second year in the profession at FSU in the program. And so he'll go back to very part-time work when school starts again. But right now he's 3/4 time, and he's doing a great job. I really enjoy that mentorship opportunity too, because he learns a lot and he's learning a lot from me. And I try to expose him to all different kinds of projects and things that we're working on. It's just something I feel like I should do at this point in my career, and I can do, and I can't afford to do that. So it's working out well. And that is the gist of my story. But What I will say too is some of the lessons I've learned as a private practice single proprietor. I've had a couple of coaches along the way that have really helped me pinpoint some things that I need to work on and in my career. For the longest time, believe it or not, I didn't have insurance. And because when most of my clients are private developers, it's not so important. But when you have those local government clients, they insist on the insurance. So insurance was a little tricky. I had it for a while and then I dropped it. And then about 2 years ago, I picked it back up again. And sometimes those insurance companies don't know how to classify you. So, they want to try to stick you in the engineering pot, but their engineering and architecture, they have design related liabilities that we don't as planners. So to try to convince an insurance company that, no, that's a little bit more than what I need, I don't really need that kind of level of insurance. Really errors and omissions and general liability and professional practice is what I have. I also have a data breach policy for those of you who are interested in learning about what kind of insurance I have. But some of my clients require $1 million worth of auto insurance also. And that is the conversation I usually have with them. And I have been able to negotiate that down to what I currently have in my policy, because the argument is I'm not driving for them. I don't have anybody in my car as a county employee, city employee that I might have a client with. So I don't know. I've just been successful in being able to negotiate that policy down, because $1 million worth of car insurance is, I don't know, in Florida, it can be quite expensive. So I've been able to just keep the status quo is what I have right now. I don't have a company car. I use my own personal car, and I keep track of the mileage for tax purposes. I have an app. I have QuickBooks. So there's an app that I can use that keeps track of my mileage when I'm traveling. Also keeps track of my hours. I really love it. I can clock in and clock out on my phone so that I can keep track of my hours with my clients so that I know how much I need to bill them. I usually bill twice. I don't know if I'm getting way off track here, but I usually bill twice a month. I'll bill, if I have enough to bill twice a month, I'll bill in the middle and the end of the month. If not, I just bill once a month at the end of the month. So, and that's a great way to keep track of your expenses too, is to have that QuickBooks subscription. So so my employee is under my insurance. I don't have to worry about insuring him separately. I think one of the great successes, one of the great influences that has helped me be so successful is being involved in my professional organization. I've been involved with Florida APA almost since the beginning of my career here in Florida. And I've been involved at different levels and different roles. I started at we have sections in Florida of APA because we're a big state. We have about 3,000 members in our chapter. So I got involved at the section level, which just is my region of the state, and different offices in that role. And then I moved into an opportunity with a state chapter as a state representative on the executive committee there. And I've just been kind of rolling around in those roles ever since. And I'm currently the president-elect who will take office as president in January. So my time is coming to an end because as I leave the presidency, I'll be immediate past president, and then that will be the conclusion of my almost 20-year role with Florida APA. It's been a long time, but I really enjoy it. But having those connections and making those contacts through my professional organization has been huge. I've met people from across the state that I wouldn't normally have had an opportunity to meet otherwise. So like Doug, there's no way I would have met Doug outside. He used to be involved with APA Florida, and he's running for office again. Thank you very much, Doug. So I think that, making those connections, being able to meet people from South Florida that I wouldn't normally meet through the organization has been probably the single most benefit to me in my career. So I really encourage you to get involved with your professional organizations. I am a member of my local chamber. It hasn't brought me any work. It's something I'm considering in the future as an expense to the business that maybe is not so much of a revenue generator. And then I do get involved with other regional things, like Opportunity Florida is our regional economic development organization for our part of the state. There's 3 throughout the entire state, and we have one of them here because the legislature has determined that there's certain areas of the state that have more, they're more challenged economically, fiscally, that they've created these rural areas of opportunity. And so I'm involved in that organization. I'm in and out of ULI. There's not a strong local chapter here, so it doesn't really provide me an opportunity to meet other planners or other professionals that are related to my field. I'm kind of out right now. I was in last year. So just being able to figure out ways to make connections with other planners. I am teaming a lot with a planner out of Gainesville right now, and she and I have discovered that we really fit well together. And so we've teamed up on several projects just because as a sole proprietor, you don't have a lot of depth on the bench, so to speak, like somebody's with Doug's firm who has 300 and some employees in the firm. So I do a lot of sub-consulting with larger firms, and I do team up with other firms that are small to mid-size to create a team in order to show the client that there is enough depth on the bench in order to get the job done in case somebody gets sick or something happens. There's always that backup. I have also, like I mentioned, hired a couple over the years, a couple of coaches, which have helped me kind of realize that things about myself that I don't see about myself. And one of my friends once asked me, well, why do you do that? Why do you hire someone to tell you what's wrong with you or what you could improve? And I said, because I want to continually learn and I want to continually be better. And I don't always see things about myself, and my friends don't always want to tell me the truth about myself that they might see. So hiring someone that can be really blunt and honest with you and tell you, you really probably should reevaluate this in your life, or maybe you need to think of a better path on how to achieve something, or maybe you need to learn how to say no more to clients because you're stretching yourself so thin, which is what the last guy said. He said, you're stretching yourself so thin, Allara. How are you giving your best to each one of your clients when you've got so many and you've got so much going on? You're not giving your best to each one of your clients. So that did help me come to the realization that I had to kind of say no to some of the things that were coming forward to me this year and just kind of really focus in on what I want to do, which for me is policy planning. I love working for the local governments and writing comprehensive plans and land development regulations. So I'm trying to stick to that, but I'm realizing that sometimes I have to have filler and work for the developer to just to make sure that I have enough work going along, not just for me, but for the employee that I have hired. So it is difficult sometimes, and I worry sometimes about next year, what's going to happen in the future. It's not been a problem, luckily. I've been really blessed that way, but I do worry about turning away work, thinking, what if I need that down the road? What if next week everything just comes to a crashing, halt? So things have slowed down for me a little bit on the developer side in the recent weeks. But we have I do have 2 continuing service contracts with local governments in my region. So there's always something coming up there that they need help with. I would probably look to doing that a little more because in small rural communities, they don't always have a planner on staff. So if you are looking to possibly have something a little more constant, maybe you reach out to one of your communities in your region that you're I would say within an hour's distance, because you don't want to drive yourself crazy by going 2 and 3 hours to city council meetings or county commission meetings, but something that you can easily get to augment their staff if they don't have a planner, or maybe they have a planner that's not really a planner. I know that happens too, to help them with maybe development review or bigger projects that come along their way that they need help with, that they just don't understand how to get through. So that is me in a nutshell. I hope I would love to have some discussion if anybody has any questions about. Yes, Steve, do you have a question?
Yeah, I have one question. You talked about planners who aren't really planners. How do you market yourself in relation to people who self-identify as planners, put it that way? I mean, how do you, what's your elevator pitch of why they should hire a qualified planner instead of one that doesn't really have any qualifications?
Well, so my argument, there's a lot of times that a developer may say, well, I can just get my engineer to do this. They can fill out an application. It's not that hard. But my argument to that is if you have an AICP planner, and I am an AICP planner, it's more of an insurance issue that it's going to get done right and it won't have any speed humps or misinformation or maybe even not enough information when you're submitting applications. So you could maybe hire an engineer or some other person to help handle these things, but they're not going to know what we know as planners and how, especially in Florida, when we have a certain amount of state oversight, to be able to make sure the application is complete and defensible in case you get sued. Because if you get sued, you're probably going to want, I would submit, you're going to want an AICP planner to testify on behalf of that rather than somebody who may have moved up through the system within the organization.
Okay. That's a good answer, Doug.
And I think if I can touch on that just a little more, I had a really great influence coming up in my early days in my career, a couple of them, but one of them just is always, and still to this day, has just always been very complimentary of me and, really has a lot of faith in me. And I feel like he's an attorney, and I feel like he's one of the best attorneys in the state. He is highly sought after, but just to hear that from someone you really respect and is great in the profession has really encouraged me throughout my career and made me probably a little more, I would say, more confident in some of the things I've gone after than I might have been otherwise. So that's what I'm trying to do now. I'm just trying to give that back to my interns and other people I have exposure to. I should say I am pretty involved with the FSU students. I do, just yesterday, I worked with a couple of them in a virtual meeting on a project that they're going to start working on in the fall, and just to give them some advice to, hey, maybe you need to think of this, and maybe you need to think of the why is the client asking for this, so you make sure you're solving the problem. That's what we are, problem solvers. So I really enjoy working with people who are looking to learn more and helping be that person. Not that I'm always right, but at least maybe I can help them think of things in a different way.
Doug?
Yeah, Allara, I was curious, what type of ownership entity do you have, incorporated or LLC, and why you went with what you did? And then secondly, do you generally contract with sub-consultants directly, or do you have your sub-consultants contract with the primary client?
So to answer your first question, today I am both. I'm an LLC and I'm an S Corp. I'm both. And there's a reason. For the longest time, I was only an LLC. And that is really a protection of you from your personal things, finances, house, whatever. It's more of a legal way to protect yourself. And then a lot of the sole proprietor friends I had back in the day said, "Oh, you need to be an S Corp. You need to be an S Corp." I'm like, "Why? I'm an LLC. I'm fine." But after talking to a CPA a few years ago, they said, "Well, they're two different things. They're two different. What the LLC helps you protect yourself and your assets from the business, from your personal stuff. The S Corp is a tax classification." So with the S Corp, I can decide what my salary is, where before with the LLC, 100% of what the business brought in was my salary and taxed in my tax bracket. So now with the S Corp, I decide what my salary is, and if I want to pay myself, whatever amount, then the rest of the money that the business brings in is considered a distribution. And the distribution is taxed at a much lesser rate than your personal income is taxed as. So I pay two different tax rates. I pay my personal income tax rate at whatever percent bracket I'm in for personal, and then my distributions are paid at the corporate tax rate, which is about 15%. So I save on Medicare and Social Security taxes. I don't pay Medicare and Social Security taxes on the distributions. So I'm both.
Well, you're both, okay.
Yep.
That's interesting.
Now the S Corp, if you decide to be an S Corp, you're only allowed to apply for that within the first 45 days of a calendar year. So if you've decided to do that in April, you have to wait for the next year.
That I had no idea.
I didn't either until it was July and I wanted to do it. So no, you have to wait till the front of the year.
And how about your when you're involved with on the sub-consultant side, when you're needing to tap into someone, how do you try to structure that?
So I have done both. I've hired sub-consultants and I've been a sub-consultant on really big jobs. I try not to be the prime recently, primarily because I'm already so busy. If I can be the sub, I'd rather be the sub and let somebody else manage the project, and I'll just do the work. Because as the prime contractor, I'm the one who has to manage the contract. I have to make sure the bills are paid. I have to, do all the background stuff too. So I try to be the sub on bigger projects. I don't market myself. People have been knocking on my door, so I've never done any kind of. I don't go out and meet and greet. I have a website. And I have a little bit of social media, and that's it. So when I hire and so the other thing that's happened, my insurance company had a template of a agreement that they sent me that they said you at least have to have these things in your contracts, because otherwise we're not going to cover you. Your insurance, we're not going to cover you with any kind of claim that comes against you. So you have to have at least these. So I pretty much use that as my contract with my developer clients, because they're not as picky as the local government. The local government might have 10 pages of contract, where developer isn't really as concerned with a lot of that, at least the ones I've worked with. Now my bigger clients like Florida Power and Light, they give me a contract and I sign it. So I give them a proposal, they attach it to their contract, and I sign it. But when I hire a sub, if they have a contract they prefer, I'll use it, as long as if I read through it and make sure there's nothing in there that I don't agree with, or I'll give them mine and they'll sign it. So it doesn't really matter which way it goes with me, as long as the end goal is that we're all protected.
Cool.
So I hired a couple of subcontractors on a job I did for a city that I'm on continuing services contract for, because it was a big job and we had a small amount of time and I just couldn't do it all myself in that amount of time. So I hired a couple of subs.
Thanks.
Does that answer all of your questions? Yeah.
I got a ton of questions if nobody else does, but I don't want to take up other people's time.
Yeah.
I'll jump in. Can you talk about your coaches that you hire? Like, how do you identify a coach that's appropriate for you, and what does that relationship look like?
So I had a woman here that is in my county that I used for I think we worked together for about 12 weeks, once a week. She came as a referral, as a connection through a local nonprofit organization I'm involved with here that is not related to my profession, but it was something I wanted to be involved with, and that's raising money to help provide scholarships to women coming out of high school or women returning to school that may not, that are kind of caught in the middle. They're not really wealthy, but they're also not the type that are more eligible for grants and that kind of thing for school. So I met her through that organization and just hired her. I didn't really check any kind of references or anything or check her background. She had a great resume. It worked out pretty well. The second one was much better. He's more of a professional global type, and he's actually speaking at our conference in September. His name is Dave Clare, and he's based out of Australia, and he does virtual sessions, which is just fine with me. I think it was much better actually than the woman I used prior, because she didn't have an office, and we had to meet at coffee shops and stuff around town, and that just wasn't ideal because you can't really be candid sometimes that way. But yeah, so Dave Clare is just kind of I've only met with him a couple times so far, and it just makes you kind of really dig deep and think about things that you don't normally think about yourself. Like the first woman said, it's really helpful for a person to work 50 minutes a day, 50 minutes out of the hour, and take a 10-minute break. Just go walk around, do something, go make a coffee, go make a tea, just to clear your head and come and sit back down. I was finding that I was sitting in front of my computer for like 2 and 3 hours at a time, and I would just get so locked in that I was having trouble kind of just thinking clearly after that point. So actually working for the 50 minutes, getting up, walking around, just kind of clearing my head and coming back after those 10 minutes and sitting down and doing that again has helped a lot, because it gets me out of that frame and makes me think of things more clearly as I come back to my desk. And then Dave Clare was the one that said, I'm overcommitting myself and that I need to kind of say no more and really focus in on what I really want to do. And it's interesting because he's like, can't you get AI to help you? And I was like, no, not really. He said, why? Let me try. Tell me what you do. So he plugged it into the AI, and the AI said, yeah, you really need a planner to help you with this, because there's just so many rules and regulations that you have to know. It's not like I'm looking in the AI can't just look in one place, like the Land Development Code or Florida statutes or whatever. You have to know so much, and you have to know so much about your local community too. Because he was thinking I could get some relief by using AI more, but it's not really an option right now, maybe someday. But he did tell me you need to be prepared because it's coming. We all need to be prepared for that AI because it's coming, and we need to figure out how to use it, or the next company who is using it is going to jump out ahead of you, and then you're going to be left in the dust. So that's something that I put on my plate for later. Because I don't want to face it, I'm not ready to face that. Did that answer your question? Yeah. Okay, good. So yeah, so don't be locked into people in your community. You can always find someone virtually that you can coach with.
Just my own experience. I hired an outplacement consultant. My wife was with a company that changed hands, and the outplacement consultant was working freelance for the company, but I thought it was very helpful just in terms of giving me an idea of what to expect, how to market myself, how to be more selective, like Allara was saying, about what kind of work I took on. And there's another question.
I think you can figure out what you want to be specialized in, then you'll be the one that people will turn to, I think. I have done some expert witness testimony. I don't love it. It can be very stressful for me. I think I've decided that I'm not going to do that anymore, but it's something I toyed with for a while, and I did a fair amount of that several years ago, but to me, it's kind of stressful. So I've decided to leave that in the past.
Man, I thought, compared to standing up in front of a planning commission, the expert witness work was so much more structured that it it was fun. I mean, compared to, you know, like the people that serve on planning commissions, they have rules they have to follow about what they can ask and what they can't ask and all that stuff. It just, I don't know. I felt like I was getting away with something when I was doing expert witness work, but that's just me. Maybe I'm, you know, just a little bit wonky or something. The other thing I wanted,
I just,
go ahead.
I just signed a contract to be an expert witness. I've been on the stand once, with, on behalf of the city I was working for. And then from that, I got a job and it'll be my first contract to be an expert witness. And so I'm really excited about it.
Yeah.
And I was telling some planners that are more on the creative side of planning about it. And they're like, why? Because you hate yourself? And I'm like, no, I'm really excited about it.
Yeah.
So I'm looking forward to the challenge.
Yeah.
Well, it's also fun to outsmart an attorney, and they don't.
Yeah. And definitely, I think that's the way I approached it, is that you're the smartest person in the room when it comes to land use and planning. So that helps quell some of the butterflies in the stomach, I guess, as you're walking in the room. But just be prepared, and rehearse with your attorney and make sure that every angle possible is covered in your mind so that you know how to address anything that might pop up. And Doug might be able to offer some advice on that too. I know he does that work.
Yeah, I just one thing is you know, to get a copy of, you know, if you have a give a deposition, that kind of thing, always keep a copy of it, start building, because that's what they really look for is you know, someone who does this on a regular basis. So you're build a great track record. Always tell the truth. You know, if you don't know something, yeah, if you put your email address, I've got some cheat sheets that I've developed over the years, and then some of the attorneys have given me what their expectations are, and because I do it for condemning authorities with relative to right of way and that kind of thing, and then it turned out being able to do it for local governments when they have a situation coming up and stuff. So there's a real need for it, and it's a niche area, but no, it's great that you're able to, because everyone kind of falls into it, it seems like.
Well,
Yeah, thank you. I will put my email in there. It's going to be annexation, and there are really only 2 people who do it regularly in my state. So it's also a gap that is, and one of them is a mentor of mine. So it's definitely there's an opportunity there. So.
Yeah, and what Allara was saying, if you know the what you call it, the applicable regs, and you're familiar with them, it takes I mean, there's a learning curve there. Once you know it, you have an edge over anybody who hasn't climbed that mountain. So that's part of it. Doug, if you could send that that cheat sheet to me or Alyssa.
And me, I'll take it.
And no, I mean, if you send it to us, we'll get it out to everybody.
Okay. Well, I know I have Alyssa's email. So
okay, that'll work.
Okay.
Thanks, Doug. Happy to help. And I wanted to jump in with a question as well, Allara, because I see we only have less than 10 minutes left, and we definitely want to keep people on track. I know in previous conversations, our attendees have talked about some of the challenges with financial literacy in terms of getting to know their numbers and keeping certain profit margin, and how do I get to understand the financial statements I'm looking at. I know you talked about having a CPA. Are there other strategies that you pursued to get up to speed and feel confident as a business owner?
Well, so not only do I have a CPA, but I actually hire someone to manage my QuickBooks also, because inevitably something gets in there and mislabeled and whatever, and I get in there and I try to fix it and I just make it worse. So I do hire someone to handle it, and she'll work on it as needed. So it's not like I pay her a monthly stipend. I pay her by the hour as I need something adjusted. And also through her, I get the package that I get with QuickBooks. I think she tells me it's a better rate than the average everyday direct purchase, because she gets a discount because she buys so many licenses. So she passes that discount to a certain point onto her clients. But Yeah, so I think one of the questions or something mentioned earlier was, how do you know how much to charge? That is an excellent question. And sometimes you have to know, well, definitely you have to know your client. I don't adjust my hourly rate by client. I do on occasion offer a lesser rate if they're a local government, but it just really depends. I did that a lot more earlier in my career, discounting my rate for local governments. But somebody posed the question to me, and it makes great sense. She said, "Why? It's still your time. It's your time. Is your time is your time. Why are you changing your rates for local government?" So I don't do it as much anymore. If I know that they really just need the help and can't afford services, I might tweak my rates for them, because I have a big heart for small and rural communities. I know they are disadvantaged because they just don't have the money. So I might do it there on occasion. But I had a conversation with Rich Unger. I don't know if Doug remembers Rich Unger. Stephen might. Years and years and years ago, and they asked me what I was charging, and I told them, and he goes, "That's not enough." And I'm like, how do I know what's enough? And he said, "Well, that's not enough." So I started incrementally raising my hourly rate, and I'm probably at the top end of what people would charge these days. I just have met a new planner that's moved in from Texas that lives a couple hours or about an hour to my west, to give her some of the work that I just don't want to drive that way anymore. It's just so far. I was getting home from planning board meetings at almost midnight, and I'm like, I'm too old for this. I don't want to do this anymore. So she started by working through me for the client, because I didn't want her to steal my client. And she was giving me her quotes, and I'm like, "That's not enough. I don't know if Texas is a lot cheaper than we are, but you need to be charging this much more." So just if you're comfortable with talking to someone that maybe not in your area, maybe if you know someone outside of your area that you don't compete with, and you're comfortable in talking. It's a really touchy subject. How much do you charge? I think I did a presentation at Florida APA maybe 3 years ago with a couple other women-owned businesses, and we talked about this a little bit. And I said, well, anybody first coming out into the profession, even as a mid-range, shouldn't be charging anything less than $100 an hour. Now, that's just my opinion. Maybe your area is different, but you just got to figure out what that sweet spot is. For example, I gave a proposal to the city of Mexico Beach, who I'm on continuing services contract for them to put into their budget for next year to update their LDRs. And I went in with my my planner friend who's out of Gainesville. We're doing this together, and she wanted to charge more. And I'm like, well, it's just a small community. I don't know if they're going to pay all that. So we went down a little bit, and I gave it to him, and he said, "Oh, really, Laura? I thought this was going to be much higher." So, I'm like, well, I left money on the table. But I haven't figured out how to know what that sweet spot is sometimes. So it's hard.
Well, that gets back to the value of planning, and my experience has been that they expect to spend a certain amount of money, and up front, if you tell them, the most they might possibly charge, they'd be glad to pay that. But the problem I have is that by the time I've scoped everything that I think needs to be done, it's way higher than they can afford. And so they have you cut the scope, and then you take out stuff. And then when it comes time to do it, they wonder why you're not doing it. That's
right. That happens too. I just went in as a sub-consultant to work on a tourist development plan for a small county north of us. And so I'm the sub, I'm not the prime. And the prime was telling me yesterday she was trying to work with them on the contract. And, they had looked at the budget to see what the TDC had in their budget, to see what was listed for consulting services. And they gave them a quote. And the TDC representative came back and said, "What? We thought you were going to do this for $15,000. And there's just no way that you could do any kind of a plan for $15,000. So around here. So they've gone back to the negotiation table to see if there's a place that they can meet. But Yeah,
Yeah.
things are expensive. Time is expensive.
Yeah, okay. Well, Alara's better, Alyssa, I'm sorry. Alyssa's better at clock watching than I am, but mine says 3:58, and we promise people to come to these things that they're gonna end right at the hour. So thank you all for participating, and thank you, Allara. That's just a lot of experience that all of us would benefit from, and not having to live through it ourselves. So I mean, that's kind of the reason we have a private practice division. We haven't set a schedule up for the next conversation, or I'd be pitching it right now. But stay tuned. We are planning to do one where we get the APA ethics officer to talk specifically to ethics as it applies to the private practice and consulting, because there are certain issues, and it gets back to contingent fees in some cases that Mike and I have been talking about. And we're also the typical APA meeting that they do these planning ethical case studies, and usually the bad guy is a consultant. So we're trying to fix that. So we that's another reason I'd like to have a lot of people on that conversation who represent private sector planners.
Before we go off, thank you, Janice, for sending your email. I did want to make a comment. If you can, I would say one of the better things you could do for yourself too is to find a way to purchase an email address that has, instead of gmail.com, have it Acreage I don't have my glasses on, 43560, and your first name or whatever at the front of it at Acreage, because then your business name is inside of your domain name. If you have an opportunity to do that, like mine's Allara at theplanningcollaborative.com, and I buy that through Gmail. And
very good. Thank you for that advice. Fantastic. Appreciate it.
it's not expensive. It's like $10 a year or something.
Oh, okay, wonderful.
Yeah.
Thank you, everybody. It's so nice to meet everyone, and I look forward to continuing conversations.
Okay.
Yeah, thank you for that. I'm going to reach out to you.
Okay.
Thanks.
All right,
everyone.
and yeah,
Take
Doug will
care.
send
Thanks for
us.
joining.
Yeah, Doug, send us that thing, and we'll get it out. Okay. Perfect. Take care.
Thanks, Dad.
Yeah.
Thanks,
Thank you all.
everyone.
Thanks for sharing your story.
Bye.
See you.